everyone. I'm just looking. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session, Empowering Educators, Practices for Powerful Professional Communities with Mentoring Strategies That Work. My name is Ahu Moser.
And my name is Doug Weimer. It's great to see everyone here, both in person and online. Just before we get started, just a disclaimer. So the content or opinions expressed in the presentation don't necessarily reflect or present the views, positions, or policies of the Maryland Department of Labor, nor does a mention of trade names, commercial products, or organizations imply an official endorsement by the Maryland Department of Labor. And while people are coming in, just one quick fact. We are from Maryland, and we like to share a little bit of Maryland trivia. So we have on the screen here our state cat. So Maryland state cat is the calico cat, and anytime we bring it up in a presentation, people smile. So we just wanted to add that in there. So anyone know, do you have a state cat? Do you know? Some states do. Well, anyway. Yeah, look at it. I mean, these are kind of arbitrary things, but yes. What? Yeah? Yeah.
Of course.
Oh. So for those of you online, we found out that the state cat and dog of Illinois are shelter cats and dogs. That's really nice. Anyone else? Well, I see you people Googling. Yeah. Massachusetts is tabby. Okay, great. Yes. Texas is the bobcat. Cool. Alaska is the lynx. The lynx. We have these cute little cats, and you got the lynx going on. All right. All right, great.
All right. So my name is Ahu Moser. So I am one of the adult education program specialists at Maryland Department of Labor. So I have a couple of my team members here, and I thank them for coming and supporting us. So it means the world to us. And also we are so grateful at this time of the day you chose to come to our mentoring session. So I know it is late in the day, the first day, everybody is very tired. So I've been in the adult ed for maybe more than 20 years. I started as an English as a foreign language instructor in Turkey. I'm originally from Turkey. So, and then I moved to the United States, and then I went through what most immigrants go through, waiting for your maybe work permit and such. So then I started working as an ESL teacher at a community college. Then my career took me to places that I would have never envisioned that would take me. So I was a program administrator. I worked in a Title II program, and then I actually work with my current team workers indirectly when I was at a local program. And for the last 3 years, I'm at Maryland Department of Labor. So I'm very, very happy to be a member of that team. Because of my background, I guess. So I am very involved with TESOL International. I am a past chair, so of one of the awards professional council. So I'm very happy to be here.
And I'm Doug Weimer. I'm currently the Deputy Director of Adult Education Literacy Services at the Maryland Department of Labor. I work with Ahu and some of our team members here. I've been in about 20 years of experience in ESOL instruction, both the United States and overseas. I lived in Japan for several years. With adult ESOL, I also have been a middle school mathematics teacher, and also worked in program management and data analysis at a community college, an adult literacy program. And also have experience as a past president of the Maryland Association of Adult Community Continuing Education, MACE, which is the COABE affiliate for Maryland. All right, so we want to do one poll. I promise we won't do a whole bunch of polls. Bring your phone up and down. You already had to Google cats, which is never a bad thing. But if you would take a second to scan the QR code, or anyone online, you could scan it or type in that link. There's just one question for you to consider about mentoring. So I'm going to leave the code up for another minute or two, but it might take a minute for you to answer the question. And you get extra time to respond because the laptop they have provided is currently locking up on us. So, but that's okay. Okay, so the question is, think of a mentor-mentee relationship you've had, and how has this relationship impacted your approach to teaching and leadership? So some of the answers so far, it's made me value collaboration, brainstorming, collective reflection, and resource sharing is key aspects of successful teaching and lifelong learning. Excellent. Seeing situations from new perspectives. Great. Help be more assertive and direct when necessary. That's a good one. Made me want to give more support to my mentees. Excellent. Important to keep a positive outlook on whatever you're looking to achieve. Positive feedback is much better than negative. My mentor gave me the confidence to know I had a special gift to give each student. She recognized in me talents I didn't know I had, and I'm happy to continue to call her friend. That's great. Laura, is anyone answering in the chat separately? Emphasize the importance of having trust in your skills and experiences, but also the openness of the mentee. Helps you consider people's experiences in making decisions. That's really important when you're in a decision-making role. Just make sure you're considering everyone's perspective. Had a mentor. I lost that one. Went away. New insights and approaches, modeled positive ways to reinforce and elicit desired behaviors in the workplace. That's a really good one because I know for us at the Department of Labor, when we think about asking our programs to do a new initiative, we always think, okay, how can we model that? Because, you know, if we say, oh, you know, this report's due on a certain date, we have to make sure that if we're going to deliver something to our programs by a certain, that we're modeling that, right? That's important because we all make mistakes. We all, you know, need a little extra leeway, but it's important for us to model that. Great. All right, let me see if we're back on since we had to restart. We're almost there. There's the cat again. Always a good. We have a, just sorry, this is a side note while this is coming up. We have a meeting with our policy unit at the Department of Labor. Laura, is the right screen being shared? Do you know? Okay, great. And we call it the feline meeting because most of the people that are on that meeting are on Zoom on that day of the week, and everyone but one person on that call has a cat at least. So it's always like, what's going on with your cat? Oh, my cat's doing this, my cat's doing that. Anyway.
Thank you. So, you know, Doug and I were thinking about what should we do, what kind of proposal should we submit. So we do a lot of professional development together. It really was not intentional, but we kind of found ourselves doing presentations together. So I did mention to him my involvement with the Maryland TESOL because they do have mentoring leadership programs. So I have been with them for the last 2 years. So I started as a mentor, kind of the prospective mentor. So I did have to go through a very long, let's say, training, and I think it took close to 4 months. But one of the things about the program was that the program was not really focusing on making it better in instructional practices, but it's about supporting mentees, maybe finding better jobs and helping them getting published, or maybe there is a teacher who is a newbie, maybe career changer. How could we really help them to move on and get jobs? So that's the idea of the mentorship program. So this is my second year. Last year I had a mentee from a K-12. So I am not, you know, I know about K-12 obviously because I have kids in the K-12 system. But sometimes I think about that, like there are some people we don't think that we have common interests or common needs or goals, but at the end of the day, and then I think we do have commonality, right? So you never know, who you are going to meet when it comes to mentoring and mentoring relationships. So, and then I was also thinking about the importance of mentoring, especially when someone really doesn't know who to turn to, right? Sometimes we feel isolated. We may have moved from another country. We find ourselves in our new communities. So who do we turn to, right? So like this morning's keynote, how we talked about having so many mentors, people supporting her, always, supporting and then making sure that the pathways were provided. I think it is a very important part of the mentoring journey. But I've never had an official mentor, but there are people around me who surround me, and then I am sure it is maybe if you have not had a official mentor, there are people who support us, who guide us, right? So and then they are maybe unofficial mentors, maybe they don't want to be known as mentors, but I think I am grateful for the people who touch my life, so professionally or personally. So, and then I consider them as mentors. So the opportunities, I think it should be the same thing for everyone. All right, so something is going on today. All right, so Doug is going to walk us through a little bit about the power of mentoring.
Okay, so the powering mentoring in adult education. Obviously, we're all adult educators. That's why we're here. Um, so what's mentoring all about? So more of a definition of it, mentoring is a structured guide relationship that's focused on growth. You think about it, normally it's the growth of the mentee, but also we can't discount the growth of the mentor, as well as in an adult education mindset, the students that are going to be impacted. Now, there can be mentoring of the students, but if we're thinking about, say, a leader to an instructor, or a director level to someone that's working as a coordinator, for example, that still has an impact on the learner eventually. So benefits for the mentees, of course, is increased confidence and faster skill development. Sometimes, you have to go through something to learn it. That's the case for any type of leadership position. But if you have someone that's mentoring, you can benefit from what they've gone through, their foibles, their things that they've done right, things that they've done wrong, so you can actually increase your own development, the speed of development. For the mentor, sometimes people think, oh, it's so much work to mentor someone, but there's a lot of leadership there as well. And I like to think of this in terms of teaching, right? So I don't know how many of you have been in the classroom. I imagine most of you, if not all. But I know when I was in the classroom, and I taught a lot of English learners at a very low literacy level. And when I would differentiate instruction for them, we would do some things, with phonics, with alphabet and so forth like that. But then part of what helped me to differentiate in the classroom is to help some learners become the instructors, right? That's a common strategy, right? That is kind of a way to help them develop those skills. If I've always remember being told, if you can teach something, you learn it, right? And so that's another thing you keep in mind, is that we think about that in a classroom, very formal way. If someone in the classroom, a student has become a leader or a teacher of sorts, they're going to really learn that content. But that's true outside of a classroom. Like, everything's a learning experience, right? So keep that in mind too, that as a mentor, if that's the role that you're in, you helping someone else, helping a mentee, also helps you to strengthen those skills as well. And it also gives you fresh perspectives. Everyone has a different perspective on life. They've got to where they are in a different way. That's really important for people that are in leadership positions, that they understand that. And then, of course, for the learners, in our programs, that can really help drive retention rates, improve our learning outcomes, and also have better classroom engagement.
So before I start to this slide, and then I really am going to be honest. So if you see me having my phone, because I forgot my laptop in Maryland. So that's the worst thing that could happen to someone. So it seems I brought everything but my laptop. So I'm not checking the time or anything, but I have my notes on my thank God, cell phone. So that's what it is. So, I think, when we think about the mentorship, so our session today is not really about mentorship ideas for students, right? So this is mostly about a professional development opportunity. It's about maybe your staff, maybe instructors, but what we believe is that when someone is involved in a mentorship activity, we are not only affecting, hopefully not affecting, in a negative way, but we are not affecting anybody like on an individual level. So at the end of the day, it's all about the how can we make our educational communities better, right? So the reason that we do invest in our teachers, and hopefully there's some money that we offer the professional development opportunities, at the end of the day, I think there is only one purpose, right? What might be the purpose? At the end of the day, yes, we are supporting our instructors, we provide them opportunities to grow, to learn, maybe to reflect, but I think at the end of the tunnel, I think it's all about how we serve our learners. So we make sure that our students are supported, and then we do have quality instruction, and then also our instructors, of course, our instructors do so many things that they are not paid. And so at the end of the day, we make sure that, our teachers have the opportunity to support our learners. So we have some ideas, and then we have some scenarios, and then I would like to show one scenario, and then Doug, and then he's going to a little bit get out of our pathway, and then he's going to show something about our learners. But I would like to show something about instructors. Maybe this scenario that we have, maybe it is relatable to you as an instructor, or maybe in the past, maybe you were a novice instructor, maybe you are a program administrator, maybe you hired someone because you felt that good vibe, right? Maybe you could invest, right, on that teacher. So think about this one. So maybe you are running a program, and then you are, in a school or an organization. So there is this newly hired adult education instructor, either ESL, or maybe instructor in IET, or maybe in ABE or GED classes, or in a high school equivalency adult high school program, like we have a participant from Maryland, like Sherry's program. So what happens is that this teacher may be feeling some kind of unknowns about the way that they feel towards adult education. Maybe they finished some kind of teacher education, but what did we do is that we threw them into the class. Maybe they are career changers, and they don't know what to do. Like, I remember my first time when I first graduated from college. What happened is that I think I was extremely new, maybe 2 weeks into my class. And then my supervisor came to, of course, observe me. So what is this newbie going to do? And then I think I asked the question to one of my students. And then she answered me that her grandfather passed away. But she said it to me in a perfect grammatical way. And then my grandfather passed away was not my concern. I said, very well. Like, I was making a comment towards, but then I realized, oops, what did I do? Right? I felt myself so helpless. I don't know how many times I apologized at the end of the day, and then you told me your grandfather passed away, but I told you very good. Because I think I was so stressed, I didn't know what to do. So all those things in a new teacher, we don't know, right? How we are going to, so many students in adult ed classes, they all come from diverse backgrounds and jobs, and then, sometimes we are close to age, they look at you, and then we don't know what to do. So I think, so what can we do to support this teacher, right? There's a newbie, and then it's actually good to be a newbie, right? Ready, so determined, ready to learn. So what can we do? What we are thinking is that maybe someone in the program could act as a mentor, maybe in an official level, or maybe there is a teacher trainer, maybe there is an instructional specialist, or sometimes the program administrator. All of the program administrators, we are aware, so busy, so many things to do. And then it's also a question, does a program administrator really want to take on this extra task? You know, sometimes if I'm a program administrator and then if I serve in the maybe mentor relationship, is it like I really favor that teacher? You know, people might think about those things. But we do believe that, you know, if this happens, you know, the program administrator or anyone more seasoned teacher, if they do give that support to this newbie teacher, I think it could help the teacher to navigate the unknowns. There are a lot of unknowns in the adult ed world, right? You don't know. Like my first job was as the GED intake assessment specialist many moons ago. I really didn't know what GED was. So, you know, there are lots of things that you can say. And then I think offering that kind of support to this newbie teacher and then saying that there are professional opportunities, I think it makes the most sense. And go to that one. And then, you know, it is important. So when we are always looking for these outcomes with our students, right? We are very outcome based. I think we need to look at the outcomes with our instructors as well. So does the teacher feel valued? Right? Do your teachers feel valued? Or if you do support your teachers with the mentoring philosophy or a mentoring program, do you think that your teachers will feel valued? Or are they going to feel that you are listening to them, right? We are at no way thinking about creating this humongous or a complex mentoring program, but I think it is important to be willing that we hear the voices of our teachers and then we care what they have to say or we care for their betterment. Because I think in some programs, if a program administrator is involved and then instructors feel that, oh, I'm going to be fired, right? So it is important to show that support to the instructors and then especially for the professional growth.
Yeah, and for Ahu's example, I think that I could put myself in those shoes. So I mentioned before that I taught English in Japan. I was kind of a cultural exchange program. And then when I came back to the US, I got a job as a middle school math teacher. But my undergraduate degree is in computer science. I was looking for a part-time job. So the local community college put an ad on Craigslist back then. And I got interviewed. Turned out that I lived literally around the corner from where this evening adult ed program was, a CSL program. And you know, a week later, I was in front of a classroom of literacy level ESL learners. I probably was not the best choice for that position at that time. And I remember my first observation, the person that came to observe my class said, "Good job, try to get the students to speak less Spanish." I would argue that was probably not good. But the reason why I bring this up is I was fortunate that I was at a location that had 4 levels of ESL at that off-campus site. And for that college, it was rare. Most of the the leveled classes were on the main campus. It were the other ESL instructors that I really was asking questions of and, you know, kind of watch each other's class a little bit. And that for me was a pure mentorship. Like that, it wasn't a supervisor, someone, it was a pure mentor that really helped. So you never know where that might come from. Another example to consider is the learner. Like Ahu said, we're focusing mostly on helping instructors, helping professional staff, but you know, consider the learner's perspective as well. So you might have an adult learner, hasn't been in education for many years, they feel overwhelmed by the demand of the coursework, balancing their family responsibilities, and they lack confidence in their own abilities and they don't think they're able to succeed. So in this case, an instructor could serve as a mentor to this learner, you know, providing personalized guidance, encouragement, practical strategies for time management and study skills, and also can connect them with other successful adult learners. I mean, we know that instructors, you know, no matter how heavily staffed a program is, the instructor is the one that's spending 95% of the time with the learner. That's just how it is, right? And the learners tend to trust the instructor. Hopefully there's a good reason for that, but that tends to be what it is. And so I think we need to make sure that if you're someone that's helping instructors, or if you are the instructor, making sure that people understand the value of that relationship. It's not just academic. There's so much that goes into it, case management and so forth. I remember one of my learners came to me with a jury summons one day, and they're like, I don't know who else to ask. That's not the language they use. These were low level, level one ESL learners. They're like, I don't know what to do. And so it became a lesson in our class, and I helped them understand that, you can get a waiver, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. Lots and lots of vocabulary we tried to learn in that moment, but that was really important for the learner. And of course, the outcome when it comes to working with the learners in a mentor-mentee relationship is that the learner will gain more confidence. And the confidence will mean that they'll retain in the program, they'll improve their academic performance, get a stronger sense of purpose, and ultimately achieve their goals, whether that's earning their high school diploma, transitioning to a training program, et cetera. And then also that network and that relationship will bleed into, as Ahu said, this is a community effort, bleed into the other learners and really help create a sense of community in the classroom.
Right, so in addition to these two examples, of course, so since we do not have a lot of time to share a lot of scenarios with you today, so do you have any ideas or do you have any scenarios that come to mind? So in addition to the ones that we shared, like I did a little bit talk about an inexperienced teacher feeling lost, and Doug talked about a learner, needing some support and then moving into, their goals. So any other ideas in mentoring that you have experienced or that you can share? Okay, all right. We have one hands up.
One thought that comes to mind is I had a mentor when I first moved to Alaska, and I was going to be teaching in really rural communities. And it was really helpful twofold. One, for myself in terms of recognizing and understanding the cultural differences and the importance of respect and understanding generational trauma, as a white person coming into these really small rural communities. But then also how to connect with students and have an understanding of the struggles that they were going through so that I didn't apply too much pressure, but I also, worked on creating a safe and open environment for those students.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Do we have anyone else? Laura has her hand up, I guess, from the chat. Laura? Or no, your own experience? Okay.
My own experience. So I was kind of wondering about thoughts on the non-newbie instructor, like the seasoned instructor who might want to explore opportunities in leadership roles or other roles that are, within a program.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah, I think we are going to talk about it a little bit in the presentation, and hopefully we can answer that. Yeah. Grayla?
Yeah, I'll share a little bit about my experience. When I was an instructor, there was a lead teacher who basically said to me, if you listen to what I tell you to do, you'll be fine. And so I said, okay, I'm going to listen to you. And just from that experience of her helping me to prepare either paperwork or lessons or giving me insights into things, I tried in the future to do the same thing when new instructors came into that program to help them along, because there are a lot of things that are beneficial, things that you might not even think about, but they bring it to your attention, and it helps make your job easier to do, not only instruction, but as far as getting your paperwork ready and things that you have to turn in. But being organized helps you to stay calm and to keep, your class together. And I think that that's important.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Do we have anything in the chat, Laura? All right. So, yeah. All right. Thank you. These are all great examples. All right. I think one thing that I think there is a process to be in a mentoring relationship. I think one of the most important things is that it is a protected relationship, right? So when you have a mentee or when you do have a mentor, your mentor does not go and tell the people, oh, this was my session with Ahu, right? So there is that privacy, there is that, protected relationship between the mentor and mentee. So, for example, when I had a mentee last year, my mentee did not say anything to anyone that she had a mentor, but I had to inform my supervisors because I need to get permission because of the ethics part of it. So then everybody knew that I was in the program, right? So, and then I think, it is important that, to understand that even if we mean well, if we would like to share an experience with our mentee or mentor, with other people, it has to be the private issue, right? So we do not share, and then every program or every mentorship program does it in a different way. So some mentoring programs, as we will show you later in some of the examples that we have, they do it solely on instructional practices. But the one that I am a part of, we do not do it on the instructional practices. As Laura asked, it's about how can someone move on to different path, or how can the seasoned teacher find herself in a different position. Like there was this teacher that I heard been a K-12 ESL teacher for 20 years, very well respected in her community, the school. But she really felt like, what is next for me? Like I'm on the brink of quitting the job, or what can I do to take it to the next level? So, and then that person, I believe, applied for one of the TESOL boards and to find her place, because she really wanted that training part of it, and then she wanted to train the people, the new teachers. So there are a lot of opportunities when we talk about the mentoring opportunities, right? So as part of the mentoring, of course, everybody does it in a different way, but I do think that professional communities matter, right? So the professional communities where the teachers feel supported, and there are different ways of doing that. So do you do professional learning communities or networks in your school or organization? How do you do that? Like, what do you do? I see everyone shaking their heads, but
We actually just started that process like in January,
okay, how does it
we
go?
call them PLCs,
Yes.
and professional learning communities. And so they're going really well. We meet with 3 to 6 teachers and once a month.
Great.
We have 2 hours a month we can use for that, for
So
collaboration.
what
And
was the criteria for you to choose those 6 teachers? Was it anyone who wanted to be part of it, or was there a criteria?
it was required for
It
all
was
teachers to
required.
do it. Yeah, we required it, and then we assigned them in groups of what we thought would be a good match and be helpful for the instructors. And yeah, it's going really well. Sharing lesson plan ideas, activities, and so it's been great. Yeah,
Thank you.
observing other teachers, they use part of the time for that.
Yeah, peer observations are great. Yeah, thank you. Any other ideas? I see one hand up.
We have something called Reflect and Share, where at about halfway through the school year, we have 5 levels. We have 6 levels of ESL classes, and each level will get together for 30 minutes a week just to discuss the unit that they've already taught. So, so that by the end, they have prepared for the meeting for 30 minutes and met with each other for 30 minutes, and then submitted, some written thoughts. And it's divided by unit, so that at the end of the year, there's a collection of all of the teachers' thoughts about what resources they've used in their unit, what they thought about the unit, sort of challenges, what, anything that they can collaborate with for the next year.
That's great.
And then we share all of that at the end of the year.
Oh, that sounds great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Thank you, Doc.
Good afternoon. I come from Puerto Rico,
Welcome.
and there, what we are actually doing is that we made a need assessment for the teachers, and that then we have facilitators by content matter. So in my case, I am a science facilitator, And we moved throughout the island with the science teachers. You know, we divide the island in several areas. So we request the teachers to go to one place that is more or less, you know, easy to go. And then based on that needs assessment, we develop some workshops, and there they share, you know, the way they handle the themes, the needs that the students have, and how they have deal with those needs.
Yeah, sounds
Okay.
great. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, such great things that everybody is doing. So, and then I love Kuwait because we hear all these amazing things, right? And then I think I'm gonna give it to Doug.
Okay, so how do you build these? Knock everything over. How do you build these collaborative networks? So, as many of you have already stated, you know, educators learn from each other, share strategies, and offer mutual support. How do you do that? So, there's lots of ways to do it, and I think what's important is if you walk away from this thinking, that's the one thing that's going to work in my area. It may or may not, right? It really depends. Like an example that I can bring up, and it might come up later in the presentation, is in Maryland, the team that I work with, we direct the granting of federal and state WIOA Title II funds. And way that we promote professional learning amongst the staff of all of our local grantee programs is that every quarter, so every 3 months, each month has a different focus. So the first month of the quarter, we will have what we call our leadership team community of practice. So every single person in leadership capacity at all of our programs. So whether you're an instructional specialist, you do intake, you do the data, you're the leader, you do IET, whatever it is, you're all on one big Zoom call together. Some of it is just sharing information, but then we usually have breakout sessions for everyone to share ideas, and we intentionally want the IS from this large program and the data person from this small program and this administrator from this medium-sized program to chew on the same question together, because they don't always get that opportunity. The second month of the quarter, we have it specific to the role. So we invite all of the instructional staff to meet together. We invite all of the data staff to meet together. We invite all of the intake staff to meet together, the IT people. And then our third month of the quarter, we have just the program administrators, because sometimes from the state office, we have things that we really can only share directly with the program administrators. And that's one of the ways that we in the state try to model creating these professional learning communities. That's what works for us. Depending on your program, the way, you know, I've talked about this with other state leaders, and they're like, well, we have a consortium model for our state. Okay, that may not be the way that works for you. For us, we don't have consortia. Each individual grantee gets their own funding. They don't have to source it out. So I say that to say, you really have to look at the way you're structured, because it's gonna depend, but take these ideas back and say, well, how could I tweak that to make it work for us? So ideas are monthly meetings, virtual brown bag meetings, you know, have some kind of lunch and learn type session, and then other professional development opportunities depending on what makes sense, whether it's staff, teachers, students, etc. Creating inclusivity is really important. So I'm sorry I didn't catch your name, but you talked about how when you were moved to Alaska and you were working with rural communities, and you're like, that's maybe you don't identify personally with those communities. That's important. Sometimes we can't always have that. You know, sometimes we do not have a shared life experience with people that we are working with, that we're mentoring, or with our learners, right? So you have to strive to see how can I, not artificially, but how can I work towards that, right? Does it mean bringing other people in? Maybe I'm not the best mentor for someone. Or maybe the fact that we don't have the same shared experiences does make me a good mentor, because I can say from my point of view, this is how I've got here, these are the things I struggled with, and then you give the mentor the opportunity to say, yes, but, and then learn from them. And that's another way where the mentor-mentee relationship, both sides can really benefit from that. But making sure you're fostering a sense of belonging amongst the educators, provide a platform for underrepresented voices to be heard, and then also cultivating a supportive environment for all members of the professional learning community to thrive.
Yeah, so in addition to what Doug talked about building a community or inclusivity, I think the long-term sustainability is also very important, right? So then we provide those PD opportunities, and it really applies to also the mentoring as well. So at the end of the day, and then what we are aiming is for our instructor or instructors, as we heard from the back, I didn't ask which state, but having those cohorts with 6 people or 5 people, the idea is to have that continuous growth. But it is not like that, okay, now we start in January and we end in March, right? So, or it is not like we do it this year, we're not going to do it again. We understand that there are maybe budget restrictions, maybe there is a change in the leadership, maybe the new leadership is really not liking the idea of a mentoring opportunity, right? Lots of things are obviously are at play, but at the end of the day, I think the sustainability. So how long can we really continue these opportunities for our instructors? Maybe some of the instructors were not able to participate this time. So is there a next time for them? They didn't join this time. Do they feel like they are going to be reprimanded because they didn't join, right? So there is that word of reprimand. So maybe it's all about the opportunities, providing them the space. And every program, if you are especially working for a Title II program, there is a framework of what is expected for the professional development. So in Maryland, we have 3 focus areas. We want our programs to focus on those 3 areas, but we are not telling them to focus on 3 areas, but based on the data that they have, based on I heard from Puerto Rico, based on the needs analysis. So which one really applies to that program? Maybe for one program, it is all 3. Maybe it is one program, only one. Maybe a program comes back and says, no, I have a different struggle, or I have a different goal. Can we do PD around that? So it is important to acknowledge what the PD goals for that organization or the program, and then take it from there, right? So just to show that we are not just doing it to do it, we are committed to doing it. And I heard what everybody said, but are there any other ideas about implementing the mentoring network? Do you have any ideas that you have implemented? And it is okay not to have implemented, but any other ideas? Although that walked around and asked, or are there any other tangible results? Or do you think you might consider, maybe you'll say, yes, I might, but I don't know about my program administrator. So.
Yeah, and I'm going to come back here in a second, but I also want to bring up, for Maryland, we're the ones that kind of have the purse strings for some of the state money. I think it's important that if you're in a program where you're like, I don't have money for this, like if you're going to require teachers to participate in this, you want to compensate them if at all possible, right? Sometimes it takes a lot of lead time. Like you really have to say, okay, I'm in this conference right now at the end of March. Is there any way to put in next year's budget for this? If not, then how do I advocate for the following year? Like sometimes it takes a lot of time to do that. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, just that you have to really think that through.
I was wondering how you teach somebody to be a good mentor. What are the skills that mentors need, and like sort of guidelines on how to do it well?
So there is a guideline, or maybe not a guideline, but a checklist that we are going to put in our Padlet. So when I went through the process, I think the number one thing was that for the mentors, we do not take over. We learn how to listen, right? And then we are not the ones who always need to say what to do to our mentee, right? I think what happens is that when there is that mentor and mentee relationship, of course it is so normal for the mentee, tell me what to do. But it is not really about tell me what to do. It is about how can you as a mentor guide me so that I take the lead. And then I'm not disclosing anything, but when I first started, my mentee told me, I said what your goals are. What do you really want to work on? Or is it only one goal or two goals? And she told me, you tell me what goals I should work on. Right? I think it is very natural because that's why maybe we are in that relationship, right? So I think it is important to give that message to the mentee that we are not going to dictate what the mentee is going to do, but we are there to support stemming from our own experiences about what that mentee is going through. And I could say, I think what you asked is that, yes, there is a checklist for the mentor, but I think there needs to be a checklist for the mentee that we will show a little bit later, that mentee really needs to have that mind that to learn to trust the mentor. Sometimes it might not be the case. Like, who do you think you are? Have only 10 years of experience while I have 20 years of experience. So how do you act as a mentor, right? So I think it is important to give that message that why those two are matched. And then I know that we're going to talk a little bit about it, about the challenges. I think it is important to have that groundwork. Maybe some of my experiences, maybe in ESL, you don't have it, I have it. I'm here to help you. Because what happens with the mentoring is that you don't get paid. I mean, in my program, we don't get paid. We are all volunteer. And the mentor and the mentee need to complete 30 hours in 4 months together, advising. So I am not in it for money. And then I spend all my Saturday to come together and then help. So there's a lot of things in it. But you will see our resources in the Padlet. So we have a very quick checklist. All right, so Doug and I were looking at the research. So we did find this research, and this is also in the Padlet. We did find this research, and then that the Department of Ed did. It was about, there is this article, we cited it, it is in the Padlet. It is about measuring mentoring success and with statistics and research. And when there was a study, and then when this study was held, they did look at the teacher retention, of course, the satisfaction. Did the teachers who participated, did they have any growth in their skills? And then did the students have any outcomes? Like, did they increase their outcomes, right? It may seem a little bit indirect, but really what we are doing with our instructors is always for our students. And then also, one of the things that the study looked at was that they had different work about mentoring with students and program administrators, but it was mainly about instructors as mentors or mentees, and that's how the study took place. I heard about peer observations. Not everybody likes peer observations. Do you like peer observations? I like them. But some teachers use it as backstabbing, going to the program administrator. Do you know what Ahu did in our class? So, you know, I think it is important to set those guidelines, and they are good for understanding. If I go and do an observation with a teacher who is teaching the same level that I do, like, it is always good to see how that teacher manages things, right? Maybe I'm struggling with time management. Maybe I use so many fillers when I talk. Maybe that teacher doesn't do. So how can I prevent those things, you know? And then also, you know, this study had also, did the students maybe pre and post test scores increase? Did we have good outcomes? We are, of course, not expecting 100% change, but every little bit of change matters. So that's why we support the professional learning communities or networks. And then we do believe that mentoring is a good way to do that. All right, so we have this question. I think we maybe asked a little bit at the beginning, so I'm just going to past that, and now it's stuck.
Okay, so we talk a little bit about creating powerful mentoring relationships. We have about 18 minutes left, so I want to make sure we're respectful of everyone's time because we're between you and dinner, something fun in Dallas, etc. So when you're establishing a mentor relationship, it's important to keep a few things in mind. So one, make sure you're being thoughtful when you're matching if possible. Depending on the size of your program, you may only have 5 people, so I get it. So these are like best case scenarios, but be thoughtful when you're matching. Consider teaching style, experience, personality. I know when I was a program administrator, we were starting to migrate towards doing things on Google Drive, and that was a lot for one of my 25-year teachers to handle. And so I had to make sure that when it's come to mentoring her on how to log into Google, type in some information about students, et cetera, that I was partnering her with someone that was understanding and maybe also had some experience so that they felt that they respected each other. That's, if you have the leeway to do that, that's important. You may not always have that. Setting clear expectations, so defining what the roles are. Now, if it's done formally, that's great. It could be in writing. Ahu has a lot of experience, as she mentioned before, in a more formal mentoring structure. But it may also, if it's more informal or something that's kind of off the cuff, it could be like, I understand how to do this. I would love to work with you on this. What works for you, right? Sometimes it's just setting ground rules just in that conversational aspect. And then also setting boundaries, because sometimes in a mentor-mentee relationship, the mentee might start taking advantage of the mentor's time. So that's another reason where if you could have it as a more formal structure, the mentor could come to the supervisor and say, I really love helping this teacher, but it's a lot of my time, or, so make sure you're managing that. Once again, if you could have a mentoring agreement, documenting what the goals are, the meeting frequency, the communication channels, having something that like the peer observation is a case where having that drawn out formally, like, you're committing to, whether it's a condition of your employment or whether it's something that you're doing just because you want to be a better teacher, setting down what those expectations are. The expectations are that you will participate in this 2-hour meeting every month, and you will observe 1 class a month, and there will be a peer sharing session, for example. That's really helpful because people understand what they're getting into. And then, of course, having those opportunities to build trust with each other. It could be that you're partnering people that already have some kind of camaraderie that could be helpful, or it could be just making sure that you're setting up the time for someone to talk and work through those issues if they don't know each other very well. Key qualities of effective mentors. So of course, communication skills forms our baseline. You've got to be able to communicate with each other well, listen actively, explain clearly. I think it's something that maybe is underrated with mentors, is the ability to listen. Sometimes when you have a mentor-mentee, there's kind of a hierarchical structure, and maybe the mentor feels like they have to guide everything. Mentor needs to be a good listener to hear what the mentee's struggles are, what their concerns are. Above that, we need our empathy and patience, so understanding challenges. I allude back to, I was talking about someone learning how to use Google Drive. For me, that was easy. Like someone showed it to me, I'm like, this is great. This is going to revolutionize everything. For another instructor, that was a huge lift. So having some compassion for this instructor has a lot of experience, and the students, and I remember this particular instructor, students loved this teacher, never wanted to leave that. Like when they were tested out, they'd be like, no, I want to stay in this class. They knew what they were doing as an instructor, but they needed this skill set because for the program, that was going to hold them back. So making sure that the mentor has compassion for what that person brings to the table, but also what they need to learn. Having subject expertise, obviously you want to have a relationship where there's something to be learned from each other. I'm going to put me and Ahu in this. So I don't think Ahu and I have a technical mentor-mentee relationship, but I get pulled into a lot of presentations because Ahu is always pushing me to do so. And sometimes that puts me a little out of my comfort zone, but I learn a lot from that because Ahu has a lot of experience doing presentations. And so making sure that you're partnering people that can learn from each other. And I very much respect that. That's really helpful for me. And then on top of that, making sure that we're developing lifelong learners. Like they're modeling that mindset of, I need to learn this, I need to get better at that, or I'm struggling at this. That happens throughout our lives, right? I mean, I think my wife runs a small business, and every year at tax season, it's like, I gotta learn how to do this, I gotta learn. So it's a lifelong struggle, right? And so you have to develop that mindset whenever you're in a mentor-mentee relationship.
All right, I would like to add one thing to what Doug said earlier about the matching. You know, you will never know when you do the matching. Sometimes when you do match two instructors or a program administrator with its teacher, you know, when you do, you know, people do have stereotypes, right? Let's put it that way. When you match people, sometimes, you know, someone might say, no, I don't want to work with someone from another culture. So they do that, you know, like when you are matching with them, sometimes, you know, those demographics also get in the way, and then people really forget about the professional part of it. So, you know, there are a lot of things that I think we need to be careful about. So, you know, and then, you know, one might wonder how we do the mentoring. So we are so busy. Our teachers are part-time. Some lucky programs have full-time instructors, right? And then there are budget constraints. But we are really committed to providing professional development opportunities, and the mentoring is one of them. Of course, there are a couple of ways to do the mentoring. So one of them is, you know, we all might think one-on-one, right? So maybe it is between me and Laura, right? So maybe Laura is more experienced than I am in one specific subject, and then I'm partnered with her, and then I learn better. And then I heard the example from the back about the group mentoring. So it is also an opportunity. It could be mandatory or it could be optional. I don't know if it is optional, how it might work, but it might work. Laura asked us about seasoned teachers, right? And then there is also something called reverse mentoring. Do you have any instructors, especially after the COVID, and then they have been teaching maybe years and years and years, but when they started teaching online and then they felt that they were at odds, right? I was a program administrator during COVID, so I didn't teach. But recently I went back to teaching online and part-time. After my first class online, I didn't know what hit me. Did a truck hit me? I felt so many emotions, and then I felt like I am feeling so tired after 2 hours of teaching. What happened to me? There were a lot of unknowns for me. So you might have instructors who have been teaching, they are seasoned instructors, but maybe for the mentoring, you have a brand new, inexperienced adult educator who is fresh out of college. Maybe they feel a little bit unknowns, but that person maybe could help the seasoned teacher with some digital skills, right? So that's the reverse mentoring. And of course, and then some states are, some cities are too far from each other, even for Maryland. So I live in one part of Maryland and my mentee lives closer to this other part of Maryland. There was no point for us to meet anywhere. I was not, or she was not going to drive 2 hours to come and meet me only for 1 hour mentoring. So what happens is that, yeah, we did it, virtual. So I think as we are teachers and then we know how to be creative, and then when it comes to mentoring, I think we can be creative to find ways to make it happen. All right, so this is a little bit about the goals. I'm not gonna go over it a lot, but yes, there is a reason that we are in that mentoring relationship, either it is individual or group. We have goals. We have our mentees' goals, but I think one should remember that this is not only beneficial to the mentee. I think it is a two-way learning experience. I'm learning, I'm growing. I mean, I'm a patient person, but I think I have learned to be a more patient person. And then I learned how to be an active listener. I thought I was an active listener, but I think I wasn't, right? So it's a two-way road, and then we learn from each other, and I think it's a beautiful experience. So as I said earlier, we never expect 100% achievement. Stepping stones, small steps. Maybe we set one goal for every fiscal year, or maybe it is a small thing, maybe in 3 months or 4 months of time. So, and then every little bit counts. So we celebrate it. So with the Maryland TESOL, they always have a graduation party. They give us fancy certificates, and then we go to dinner. And then it's like we graduate from a mentoring program, and then, it's fun to be with the like-minded people. So we talked about this. We heard about peer observations. We did hear about supportive environments. But I think in the mentee and mentoring relationship, one of the things that I do like is that there is that psychological safety. I know that person is not going to go and talk about me. And then I find myself in this relationship where I can learn. Mentoring relationship is not about the venting relationship. Maybe we do vent, but at the end of the day, it's not about venting, right?
Other things to keep in mind when it comes to the mentor relationship is making sure we have effective communication strategies. We alluded to this already, but the active listening, making sure that you're focusing. It's really hard to not look at our phones every 3 minutes, right? Maybe 3 minutes is really good for some of us, like maybe it's like every 30 seconds, right? So make sure you're focusing on the task at hand. If you're mentoring someone, you're observing their class, focus on the class, focus on what the learners are doing. If it's just having a one-on-one conversation with someone that you're mentoring, making sure you're active in that conversation. Difficult conversations. We're not all good at confrontations. I don't like confrontations. I mean, I've been in a leadership role off and on. I mean, I was a director at a community college. I'm a deputy director at a state office. I hate confrontation. I don't know if anyone loves it. I hate it. Absolutely hate having hard conversations. But making sure you're focusing on the behavior, the situation, not on that person, right? If we thought that the person was the problem only, then what's the point, right? If it's this, oh, this is a bad teacher. Okay, well then why are you even doing this, right? This is an instructor that could improve in some area, right? So make sure you're focusing on what's happening, the behavior, not focusing on the person. Making sure the feedback is constructive, it's specific, balanced, and it's focused on growth. And also making sure your questions are powerful. Are they open-ended? Are they thought-provoking? Are they focused on a solution, right? These are all important things when it comes to communication strategies. Other challenges to overcome, time management. Ahu brought up about, giving up her Saturdays to work with people. Yeah, that's an issue. If there's a way to compensate people for that, go after that. Not always going to be a possibility, but if it is, try to make that happen. Make sure you're maintaining boundaries. What is the professional relationship here? Sometimes a mentor-mentee is a supervisor to the person being supervised. That happens sometimes. And so you have to make sure you understand that if I'm observing your class, I'm also looking at it from a monitoring point of view. That may kind of go against the psychological, safety piece of it. If it's not, and hopefully, most of the time it isn't, making sure that there's a boundary. It's like, I'm not your supervisor, but I do want to give you the benefit of my knowledge, what I've seen in your classroom, et cetera. And then, of course, when it comes to handling conflicts, we're addressing the issues promptly, and we're focusing on shared goals.
All right, so this is, I don't think we have much time to the time. So this is like a case study because I believe that Minnesota had a adult education mentoring initiative. So this is in our slides and this is in the Padlet. So if you are interested, please read about it. And if you want to Google about it, so you can definitely read about that. This is a little bit about Maryland TESOL. Maryland TESOL is a TESOL International. It is under TESOL International, so they do good work about professional development. They do mostly K-12, but adult education. If you would like to, look at the opportunities, maybe you can join their, the online conferences. Who knows? You can check them out. So they do good work about advocacy and such. So, all right. So these are the things that we did talk about, like we did talk about professional learning opportunities, but there are so many things that we all do, right, in our programs. We do mentoring, we do workshops, and then maybe we do self-directed learning. The opportunities are endless. So maybe for your program, you can come up with something that you like. And we did talk about this. You know what? This sounds interesting, but my program administrator doesn't like it. So it's not a go. Or we don't have money, which is, of course, fair. And sometimes, we are so used to doing the same things over and over and over, we really do not stop and see what changes we can do. Sometimes the administration doesn't accept. But I think maybe with the local nonprofits, and then since there is not a lot of chain in the command, it is easier to sell it to the boss to do mentoring. So, and then this is also in our presentation. All right, so we heard about needs analysis.
Yeah, so
Doug will
just
talk about
talk
it,
about
yeah.
the action steps, make sure you're assessing where you're at right now, what are you currently doing, where are the gaps, like where do you want to put your focus on? Is it the achievement of the student learner? Is it on their retention? Look at the data to help you decide what I want to focus on. If you just say, you know what, I just don't have good teachers, okay, that's not a starting point, right? Because one thing, I don't believe that that's true. But two, that you can't throw everything at the wall. I remember one program asking me, Doug, we're trying to figure out how to improve our outcomes. We did this initiative and we did this one 2 months later. We did this one the next year. Then the next year we did this one. And I was like, if you do all of these things, if it's successful, you'll never know. If it's not successful, you'll never know because you did too many things. Pick something. If it doesn't work, okay, that's one thing that didn't work. Now you've crossed something off a list, you can try something else. So make sure you're identifying your gaps with your data. I'm developing a plan, create a timeline, what are the goals, what are the actions, and start small. This does not have to be a giant thing that you do. I mentioned about how Maryland, we have these kind of communities of practice that we did. That's not because we just set out one day and said, this is what we're gonna do. It grew naturally from meetings that we were having with different staff at different programs, and we're like, hey, this is kind of a good idea, how can we sustain that? So start small and move from there.
As COIP does the advocacy, right? We say call to action advocacy, our adult learners. And then we are calling for action, and then we say that mentorship isn't just about guiding or teaching, right? So these are easy things to do, and then we really aim to empower the educators to have that safe culture where they feel valued, and then also especially their mental health, and then the growth, and then shared learning. I saw this cartoon, and then in the cartoon there are two people. So one of them says, "Oh, it's PD time. It's PD time." Another one says, "Oh my gosh, I only go to that PD because lunch is provided." Right? So, because the only value for that person is the lunch, because maybe that person has had so many PD opportunities that are so unrelatable, that person has checked out. Who can blame that person? So I believe this brings us to the end of our presentation. We hope that you have at least one takeaway, and then we do hope that if you're not doing any mentoring, and then consider doing it. It's really beautiful to do it. And this is our Padlet. So everything is in here. Okay.
I'll move this far so you can scan it.
Yes, so you can scan it. When you scan it, you are going to also see other presentations that we have given. You are more than welcome to have a look at those as well. And then after our presentation, we will make sure that we have put everything there. We are not going to put anything in the Hoover app, but everything will be here in the Padlet. And we thank you all so much at this time of the day, before dinner. You're all so tired. We are grateful. Wishing you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.